Hello and welcome to yet another edition of season 5 of the Hockey Republic. My name is George Njuguna. I hope that you are well and keeping on well. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have just come in, and I am not alone, I'm with Alvin Wesonga. Alvin will later be joined by Simon and one or two more persons who will come in and join us. But let me just start with banter with Alvin. Alvin, how are you?
I'm fine George. Habari ya siku mingi.
Salama sana, habari yako?
Mzuri. All is fine. All is good.
All is good and all is fine. You have been very busy this week on the X space. What is going on?
Sikusikii vizuri.
Umenipotea tena. Aya, let me just see if my audio has gone back. No, it's fine. Must be your end because
I'm using my phone Ni mtu alikuwa
okay.
ananipigia.
Okay.
Itabidi nidunge. I'll have to divert my call so that nisikuwe na disturbance.
Labda Ruto anakutafuta ukuwe CS wa sports.
Yeah. Just a minute.
Okay. As he is sorting that out, remember you can follow us on our social media handles. Those handles will be showing on your screens. The first one is Hockey 254. That is on Facebook, Hockey 254. Hockey Kenya will be back, but at the moment, that is what we have. After that, we have you can also follow us on Twitter. Just a minute. Yes, Twitter, that is Hockey Kenya. And of course, on YouTube, you can follow us on the Hockey Republic. That is our YouTube page. And if you have any questions or comments on what we are talking about today, we want to discuss, and for the next probably 5 or 6 weeks, that is what we'll be discussing each and every week. We might be having Alvin here for a while, but that is one of the discussions that we'll be having. How can we make our hockey work? And today we are going to begin with what we call fixing clubs. What is it that we need to fix in our clubs for it to work? Remember, on our social media pages, the ones that are live, you can engage us on it, and you can let us know if you have any questions or comments regarding what we are talking about, which is let's make hockey work, and we are fixing clubs. I began by asking Alvin, have you sorted out your phone calls?
Yeah, I've sorted out my phone calls. Now I'm okay.
Okay, good. So I began by asking you, you've been very busy this week on Facebook. What is it that you have been dealing with?
Okay. Basically, personally, as Alvin, I had decided to stop talking about hockey in Kenya and concentrate on my own things. Till the past week or last week, people started this conversation of let's make hockey work, and I was like, all right. Someone calls me and tells me, Alvin, umenyamaza hii story, mara hii hutaki kuongea, wamekuweka mfukoni. That can't happen. So anyway, this week I started with asking questions, because we have to ask ourselves the hard questions. These are questions that people don't want to ask. As a member of a club, is your club compliant with the Sports Act of 2013?
Mhm.
Is your county hockey association compliant with the Sports Act of 2013? Those are the
Mhm.
basic hard questions that we need to ask ourselves. Before everything else, we have to deal with compliance. And by fixing our clubs, it means everyone has to stand up. You are a player who's playing for a certain club. You just go to play. I think people just go to play. They don't know what it means, what compliance means. They don't know what the Sports Act means.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, every club that has been playing the league since
Mhm.
the implementation of the Sports Act has been doing so illegally, because you can't have a league, a competitive league in the country, when the clubs are not compliant. So by fixing clubs, it means we have to get all the structures right. We have to work on compliance. There's no way around history.
Mhm.
It's just supposed to be that way.
Mhm. Okay. Good. Simon, karibu sana.
Nashukuru, pole nimechelewa kidogo. It's been long since we did a podcast. Nilikuwa nimetoanisha setup yote, so it took some time
Fika
to
nyumbani.
bring it back. Alvo, good to
Good to
see
see
you
you
bana.
too. Fika
Eh?
fika nyumbani mapema.
Mi niko nyumbani, just that I think uzee imeanza
Uzee
kuingia
imeanza
kidogo.
kuingia kidogo na uko bado miaka 20.
It's
Mimi ni
very
Gen
young
Z,
boy.
niko 18, yeah.
Anyway, we
Yeah, good to see you guys. It's been
yes, it
long.
has been a while. So we had just started, and
Mm.
I asked Alvin a very simple question. He's been very active this week on our social media pages, to be particular, Facebook and Twitter. And on Twitter, he's been engaged in two platforms so far. Yes, the other day, Juicy alikuwa on their own platform together with Juma Juma, and then yesterday, he was part of. Now the sports community was together, and I managed to join in. And I realized something. Our problems are all the same. Alvin can correct me. Lakini shida
Yeah,
zetu iwe table tennis, iwe sijui nini, shida zetu zote ziko the same.
Tuko hapo.
But I liked the spirit because and I was telling Alvin offline, people needed to vent, and that is what people did. They started
Yeah.
venting on what is
Mm.
going on, which was a very good thing. And so it encourages people more, that people can um, find a platform to just speak, and it's good to have such things going on. So maybe we can start with what we need to do. Yesterday, I got a call from Simon. I think we talked for 30 minutes, if I'm not.
No, actually, the call was around, if I'm not wrong, almost
Yeah,
1 hour.
almost an hour. Let's say 45. And
Yeah, 45. Yeah.
we have been saying we are coming back with the Hockey Republic, and that has not been happening. Because of our own personal issues and dealings. And Alvin, yes,
Njugush,
uh,
sema tu kweli. Unajua mahali
uh,
tumefika, we need
uh-huh.
to be honest. Tuliamua tunyamaze because ilifika mahali tulishindwa kufunga mdomo. Tungeanza kuongea mbaya. So we decided to take a break. And let me say this before we continue. The same way with Alvin, venye alikuwa amenyamaza, I had also taken a vow to keep quiet until I got calls from many of my friends, wako like, hey, ni aje umenyamaza, kuna hii story inaendelea, are you aware? I was like, yeah, of course, I'm aware. But because I need to manage my stress, I decided to keep quiet. Then they were like, no, Z, we need all hands on deck. And I'm glad Alvin, Juma walini invite kwa hiyo space. I was able to contribute, and I agree with Alvin, with Juma, Danko, everyone who called me that it's a time where we sit down and say tukue tunaka mkutano tu tuambiane ukweli, tuko in crisis and we need to sort this out. So yeah, Hockey Republic ingerudi, but this is not about Hockey Republic now. It's not about content creation. It's not about marketing the sport. It's about fixing the issues we are currently facing. So yeah,
That's it.
it's good to be back, but under the circumstances, we are not back on a good topic.
I
It's
have a
something that,
question on that. Has anything ever changed?
yeah, it has changed. It has changed. The mood is different. The mood is definitely different. Poleni, mnaona nikiangalia chini kuna kakitu kananisumbua hapa. But niko kwa ni. The mood is different. Normally Alvin can tell you, whenever people speak, they were labeled the naysayers. Alvin hata nilikuwa nadhani angeingia na t-shirt imeandikwa naysayers hapa. But the mood is different because it's like now everyone is woken up and they are saying the same thing. They are saying, hey, we need to fix our hockey. So something has changed, because this is a conversation that if not every single member of the Kenyan hockey community, then majority are saying that it's time to take charge. We are stakeholders and we need things to change.
And today we are beginning to look at our clubs, because if you look at the structure of, or rather the constitution of the Kenya Hockey Union, it begins with the clubs. The clubs give powers to the county association. The county association gives power to the national body, or Kenya Hockey Union for that matter. So today I want us to beginning by fixing our clubs. And I have several things that I'm going to ask. Let me begin with the word why. And let me begin with Alvin, because he's been very quiet. Alvin, why do we need to fix our clubs?
You see, Njugush, before I talk about why we need to fix our clubs, I have been saying, and I've always been saying, the main stakeholders, the key stakeholders of the sport, don't have a voice at all. And these are the clubs and the players. I think the other day I gave an example of football. Football. In football, unanisikia kweli? Mbona ni kama connection yangu ilikuwa imeenda. Oh, I was saying, I was saying, for example, in football, the main stakeholders of the sport, who are the club, the players, the players come under the club. This under club who inatoa every representative to go and make a decision on their behalf. But you see, even before we start thinking about how to fix the clubs, how can a whole county association, for example, Nairobi has more than 20 or 30 teams. You have 30 teams being represented by two people in making a decision about management. First of all, that is something that we should be talking so much about. Anyway, back to the question why we should fix our clubs. As it is right now, according to the Kenya Hockey Union Constitution, which we don't have any other option, because that is what's existing. We have to follow it.
Yeah.
We have to fix our clubs, because these clubs constitute the county hockey associations. Because you can't have a county hockey association. Anyway, you can have a county hockey association without a club, but I think a county hockey association has to have, if a county has a club, tuseme example Kakamega has Western Jaguars, Blue Pirates and hizo zingine, the clubs have a voice in the county hockey association. And according to the Kenya Hockey Union Constitution, the county hockey associations ndio watu wanawezaenda on the table. Someone said you can't talk if you are not on the table. So at the end of the day, we have to fix our clubs so that they can have a good representation at the county hockey associations, so that waende kwa hiyo table ya yenye wanasema the table that is the council. And we all know how we should fix the clubs. Sijui kama naendelea bado kwa hiyo swali, but we all know how we should fix our clubs.
Mi nitakusimamisha kama
we should fix our clubs. we should fix our clubs by ensuring they're compliant. Imagine I was looking at the requirements for compliance in the Sports Act 2013. First of all, by fixing a club, you have to register it to the sports registrar. And for it to be registered with the sports registrar, it has to be compliant. Sasa hiyo compliance, maybe I don't have access to the documents, but later on Jugusho Saimo mtapeana what is needed and what should be done, because I don't have access to those things right now. I'm using my phone.
Okay.
Saimo, why do we need to fix our clubs?
The why should start from what makes up an NHA or an NA, a national association. Alvin amesema vizuri. There has to be a national association. In our case, it's KHU. That's what we have. That is what is recognized. But KHU, itakuwa tu a shell. It will just be a shell. It will just be a name without having representation or membership. Based on the current constitution, the membership inatoka national, if I'm starting from the top, national, county, or regional, and then inaenda to clubs or entities that are recognized by the CHA. So bila clubs hakutakuwa na CHA. CHA itakuwa ni jina tu na KHU itakuwa ni jina tu. So KHU hata sijui anaweza toa members wapi without clubs, because remember CHAs lazima watapata representation from clubs. Now pia kulingana na constitution or the way we've been operating, for you to be a member of the council lazima ni kama umetoka kwa club. We haven't seen a situation where I'll give an example, kama Sai Murkomen ako free naseme natoka kwa president wa KHU ataulizwa unatoka club gani?
Sai kuna club Erigeo Marakwet.
See, unaona that the fact that
which is compliant
club, he has to be a member of, yeah. So the why, you see, hizi issues zote tuna face nationally with hockey and regionally with hockey can only be fixed by the clubs. And the reason as to why we need the clubs to be fixed is the point where they get to have a say. Kuna club, I can tell you for a fact, clubs themselves, the way they are formed and the way they have been operating, tumekuwa tukioperate as some let's say kama chama tu ile tunachanga pesa end month, tuna mwenye amekuwa kwa round anapewa hiyo do, but in our case tunachanga do hiyo do, tunasema tunaenda social event yenye inaitwa the Hockey League, because to us, if we are critical, the Hockey League is a social event. And umesikia historia we pay to play. So once we fix the clubs, then we will be in a position where we can now start calling for changes. But without fixing the clubs, then tutaendelea with the same cycle. One time tunapiga kelele online, 2-3 years of this crisis, then back again to making noise. So that's why we need to fix clubs, because also by fixing clubs we'll be able to see the full potential of hockey in this country. And unaweza chukua examples, wakati Kenya Rugby reformed, we saw a huge change there. When ukiangalia FKF kukafanywa reforms, big sponsors are fighting to come in. So the why is for us to realize the hockey reforms inafaa ianzie kwa clubs.
Yeah, that's right. And let's get into the second bit of it, which is the origins of clubs. I don't know if we are going to get into the history of it, or looking into probably what you've mentioned, the troubles that they are going through. And clubs are a very good thing, because I'm trying to, on hockey254.com, I'm trying to get the origins of clubs. I'm looking for the first club ever to be created in the country. I bumped into so much information towards the end of last year. Did you know Railways had a club? Railways had a club, and many organizations, government organizations, had clubs. And I wondered where they.
And let me throw a fun fact there for people to find out as well as you. I want you to check the history of the clubs and the geographical locations where they started.
Yeah.
Particularly Nairobi. And then plot that with the current clubs we have. Basically, it's like you take the map of Nairobi, put an X with a different color for every year that the clubs were formed, and then you'll see an interesting fact there.
That's good. And it's interesting that you're talking about that. So maybe we can, and I'll ask you a question. Why did these clubs end up dying away? Is it because they were government oriented, or what happened?
There's a lot to unpack there in terms of origin of those clubs, because most of them were, let's say, corporate clubs, sponsored clubs. And when the sponsorship ended, they morphed into what we call, locally we call them self-sponsored, but ideally the best term to call these clubs are community clubs. Community clubs are where a few members of the community wanashikana, then they say, hey, let's start a hockey club. So the correct term to refer to what we call self-sponsored clubs are community clubs. And as we go on with the discussion, I'll explain why the term community club makes sense more than self-sponsored club. So the origin of the clubs, most of them were corporate owned, corporate sponsored, and then they ended up corporate sponsorship ending, morphed into community clubs. Now, currently we can say we have three categories of clubs. The corporate clubs, the ones that are sponsored or their naming rights have been bought by corporates. We have institutional clubs, for example, university. We have the government institutions like police. And then now we have the community clubs, the likes of Wazalendo, Park Road, and the likes. And most of the clubs that you are seeing, the new clubs that you are seeing coming up, they are community clubs. So once we understand those three categories, it will be able, it will make us break down the issues we have easily, because challenges zenye ziko kwa community clubs sio challenges ziko kwa corporate clubs. Challenges zenye ziko corporate and community clubs are not the same ones with institutional clubs. And even within institutional clubs, the challenges are different. For example, Kenyatta University don't have the same challenges with Kenya Police. So we need to break down into those categories. And I made a Facebook post where I said we need to understand the particular issues in clubs or in the entire system and tailor make solution so that at the end we collectively reform hockey.
Yeah, that's right. Alvin, I know you have been in the garage there before I let you in live here back. What? Why did the original clubs kind of die? Why did we lose? Let me think. One that you may probably know. Telcom. Yeah, let's talk about Telcom. Why did Telcom walk away from us?
That is basic knowledge. It's basic knowledge. You lost Telcom. You lost Telcom because Telcom as a brand, Telcom as a corporate entity, they didn't get value for money. They didn't get value for money. It's when a corporate decides to let's say sponsor or partner with a sports team, their value for money is basically publicity. Or rather, I can echo someone's sentiment from the X Spaces yesterday. If a corporate entity comes to sponsor you or partner with you, there are two things involved here. It's either they want a gain from you, or the other option are doing that because it's CSR, community social responsibility. For which,
and that was the case for Telcom.
generally,
I think that was the case for Telcom at some point, and that is why at the end they said no. CSR wacha tuachane nayo sasa.
We've not made hockey a product. We've not made hockey a product that can be used as a marketing tool. Sports should be a business, and I think that's where a lot of clubs need. That's what a lot of clubs need to work on. I can give you a case scenario. There was a time I was me and Juma and some other friends. We were trying to get a sponsor or a partner for two teams, one in the men's Premier League, another one in the women's Premier League. But you get into a boardroom meeting, talk to these guys. These guys ask you, what are we getting from us sponsoring you? They only need one thing. They need publicity. That is their value for money. So vile umeuliza why Telcom walked away from us, these corporates will easily walk away from you if they don't see value for money. We have to give these guys value for money. Siwezi kuja nikupatie millions na kupea tu. Kazi yangu ni kukupea tu hizo millions. I'm just giving you millions, but what am I getting in return? Unajua in sports, in the sports business, mimi hupenda kutumia examples za vitu zenye sisi huona. I'll give you an example of look at the English Premier League. The English Premier League, it's corporates will easily come and in fact corporates will fight for that space. Someone will come they are just your wanakuanga na sponsors tofauti. Sikia kuna sponsor mwenye ni sponsors sijui wa niliona something funny from a certain team. They have sponsors small things, but these sponsors, what they get from them is the publicity. They just need use publicity kidogo tu. It's something that I think all of us venye tuko hapa we've been trying to work for in hockey. And at the end of the day, the clubs will suffer because no one will come. No one will come for you if they can't see that. They can't see the value they'll get from you. It's just as simple as that.
Mm.
Okay. Simon,
Yeah.
I know you've dealt with sponsorship. You are the first CEO of
Yeah.
a club in this country.
Not really. Not really.
I think you are. I don't know. Tell me of any other CEO of any club.
CEO is just
No, no, no.
is just an equivalent of a president.
No, your club had a president.
Mm.
You are the executive officer. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
flow
Yeah.
with that, because that is a communication I got from your team then. And you organized,
Mhm.
I would call it a very successful tournament, which had a lot of
Mm.
sponsors in it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what was the trick, or what did you give to these sponsors? Because if I hear what Alvin says and what is happening right now
Mm.
in clubs, I don't
Mm.
I don't see the correlation. I know sports is a business. That is a fact. That is true. But
Mm.
what else are we missing that we are not having sponsors come into these clubs? Because I feel there's something else that is happening that is not right.
Mhm.
Were our foundations wrong? And that is why I
Mm.
asked the first question: why did corporates leave the table? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a question probably I can answer in a whole webinar. Because it wasn't as simple as just walking into an office and asking for um, support. You know, when most of the people think about sponsorships, they think about
Mhm,
hard cash. Um, Sponsorship is not about hard cash
mhm,
or money. It's also service
mhm.
provision, getting services from a sponsor. So I'll read a comment I'm seeing here from
Yes.
Duncan. He's saying corporates have changed from CSR to CSI. A lot of those clubs maintained the CSR
Mhm,
mindset. That's why they lost. So this is what I'll say. The first thing we did is we had a plan. Before I accepted to be the CEO of the club, I had an open, honest conversation with
mhm,
the board and asked the board, "What's your vision?" So they told me, in X number of years, we want to be here. So they gave me the short term, mid term, and long term goals. So my job was to now come up with a strategy. And having the Twinkle tournament was one of the short term strategies for marketing, as well as basically bringing on board corporate partners. So it's a plan that took
mhm,
6 months. And what we decided to do first is to package ourselves as a
mhm,
community club. Yes, as much as we were corporate sponsored, or the club is corporate sponsored by the board members and other big wigs there, we had to come up with a strategy that shows that this is a community club. We work with the community, and then now, using that angle, we are able to approach clubs and tell them, hey, look, part of our whole strategy, part of our whole DNA is to take young girls straight from high school, mold them to become professional women in terms of their careers, as well as sports women, athletes. And that was one of the best keys to the gate of the corporate
mhm,
sponsorships. And then we realized, Njugush, you know me, mi ni mtu napenda ku
mhm,
take notes. So the first sponsors we approached, we were asking for hard money, hard cash, and they were telling us, no, as Alvin has said, you don't have anything to offer for me to see it as an
mhm,
investment. So we ended up coming up with a strategy of, you don't give us cash, but we need this service from you. And they started accepting, and that was one of the best ways to get
mhm,
sponsors on board. And by the time I was leaving, we there are a lot of deals that were coming up. and hopefully the club will be able to make those deals. So bottom line is, you need to understand who you are as a club. Are we a community club? Are we a corporate sponsored or corporate
Mhm.
owned club? Are we an institution club? Then using that information, you come up with a marketing angle. And also the other thing before I fail to mention is, you need to make sure you
Mhm.
market yourself. Be on social media, make posts every now and then, invite people to games. When you go to an office, the first time you meet a manager or a business development team or marketing team, don't start negotiating deals there
Mm.
and then. Ask them to come to City Park to go to an away game. Lipa their fare, accommodation if you can. Tell them, come to our training session, come to our game. Don't worry whether you lose or win. Don't put pressure on the players. Just showcase what you are doing. But you can't just walk to a sponsor and ask for money and hata hawajui kama mnachezanga. Yeah, so
That
they might think that unataka tu kula pesa yao.
that brings in the third thing, which is leadership. But before we get or engage ourselves
Mhm.
in that, let's get into our social medias. Remember, you can engage with us on our social media handles, and I'm going to read a few comments here that are coming in. Let me begin with Njoroge Nyambura, who's um, on X, and she says, "I feel our associations are not supporting clubs to register. Simply saying you won't play in the league or participate in the union activities is not enough. Holding clinics to help teams or working with individual teams should be something uh, that the union or a county association help us with. It feels the longer this goes, the better for the office bearers."
Mm.
That's
Mhm.
very true, um, Joroge. And on YouTube, we have Cash in Charge, who says this is very interesting. Same discussion about clubs in the US on Facebook. Wow, okay, that's nice. Thank you for joining us and watching us all the way from the States. And remember, if you have any questions or comments, you can engage with us on our social media handles. I can see Duncan Murunga is coming in, so let me see if I can get him in. Alvin, Duncan, can you hear
Mm.
us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Karibu sana.
Asante, good evening and thanks for the invite. I honestly do appreciate.
Karibu sana. Let us delve into something called leadership. I know this is something that you're very passionate about, and it's going to be a discussion that is worth your time. And let's talk about leadership. Why is leadership very important in a club? And are we missing this in our current system?
Thanks, Njuguna. As you've rightfully said, leadership is one of the most important elements in as far as a management of a club is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership does not only entail holding positions. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it entails looking at where you want to see this club gets to in terms of its vision, and then what kind of contribution you want this club to have, both at the sport level and even at the players' individual level, as you engage in the sport of hockey. Now that we are speaking about hockey,
Yeah.
one of the core guiding principles from where I sit about leadership is integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And integrity comes in very many ways. Do you have, for example, structures in place that you want to use to implement your leadership role within that club space? And then, two, what strategies and policies have you been able to develop that then will be guiding in as far as your execution of your leadership responsibility is concerned? So it's an
Mm-hmm.
entire topic worth of discussion, but bottom line is about ethics, transparency, accountability, and quality governance in as far as our sport is concerned. That basically entails leadership from where I sit.
Uh-huh.
Thank
Okay, good. Simon, you want to come in here?
Yes. Now, I have a very interesting document with me here. Sijui kama kamera itaona vizuri. Club management. Interesting enough, this is a document on the FIH website. And it gives details on how to set up. This is the second chapter. And there are a lot more chapters about club management, because one of the statutes, I think either 2018 or 2022, FIH came up with statutes about developing hockey worldwide. And this, I'm shocked that these documents have not yet been sent over to clubs, because they sent, I think, a memo to the continental federations, which were supposed to tell the national associations, trickling down all the way to club management. So I'll just like to add on to what Duncan amesema, and then sasa tuingie. Unajua sasa tunasema what should be happening, and I'm sad that we are not saying what is currently happening. Na sijui mbona tunaweka filters leo. But today we are being polite. Hapa sasa ni kusema tu kweli. So on top of what Duncan has said, kuna kitu inaitwa leadership and there is management. And most of the time we usually mix the two. So leadership has more to do with responsibilities, professionalism, credibility, transparency, hizo vitu zote. Management is the day-to-day running of things. So kwa hii document, I'll just read a few. The responsibilities of leaders in a club or in club management. Create and administer actions. Develop policies and procedures. Keep the club members informed. Acknowledge the needs of club members. Provide job descriptions for positions available. Does your club provide job descriptions? Wacha nitaongelea hiyo kidogo. Assist with the changeover of board members. How many of us wamekwamilia viti? Provide opportunities for coaches and officials. How many do that? Evaluate performance of the volunteers and professionals who run the club. How many times do we sit down and say, coach unatuangusha, kitman unatuangusha? How many times? Ensure funds are raised well. Other than the subscriptions, what other avenues do clubs exercise? Ensure the club is well represented within the hockey community. Wakati watu wanaitwa meeting na KHO ama CHA, do they even inform their club members that they've been called? Do they ask what decision they want? Maintain good relationship with the local
Can I say
community.
something there?
How many of our clubs? Yeah.
And this is in relation to the Premier League that is kicking off on the 27th of this month. So I saw a post that clubs are supposed to pay for using Dashmesh Hockey Stadium, which is 5,000 and something. There's some 100 up there, and
5,000 plus VAT.
let's include VAT over there. That is per team. So in total, it's coming to around 10,000. So I, as a journalist, I said, let me ask the union why they have decided to go this route. So I called the Secretary General, who's the speaking authority in that club, in that union, and I asked him, why have you decided to charge clubs? And he said, number one, the stadium is under construction, so they needed to find a space where we can play hockey. And for the Premier League, there were two options: either we go back to the Maram, or we have a turf where we can play. And the turf that was considered was Dashmesh, and in Dashmesh it was said, oh, you have to pay for maintenance, which is right. But now the question is, who pays for this? Because and I'll be very careful here. Some players or former players said that is not right, because clubs are paying registration fees and all
Registration
those things.
fee.
But then the union says that money you give us, and not every club gives. They are not compliant. All clubs are not up to date with that payment. They have not, the money they have is for maintaining what is currently there on the field. But then he said something very important, and he allowed me to speak this. He said they met with club presidents and secretary generals sometime in April at Impala Hockey Club. I wondered if that information got to the clubs.
Haya, unajua mimi sitaki kujibu. Wacha labda Alvin na Danko
Lakini
wajibu.
Alvin ana club, kama ana club iko Uganda. So labda Danko atajibu hiyo swali.
Na wako ama
Sasa ndio
wako off.
nashangaa
niko.
ni nini. Okay. Danko, mulipata hiyo communication?
From where I sit, I didn't. But then I might want.
What do you mean from where you sit?
No, as a player.
Okay.
But I might want to double check with the club leadership to know if they really got this information. Because now, if that is coming from the SG, then let me assume. Okay, I don't know him very well as a person from where he sits on matters integrity, but let me assume what he's saying is true. Okay. But then from where I sit as a player, then I didn't get this information that it go to the club. So I'm really not aware. I might want to double check with our leadership from the club.
You see Njugush, before Alvin aongee, Duncan amesema kitu important hapo about integrity issues. You see, today we are not talking about KHU and we shouldn't focus so much on them, but I just have to make this point.
I actually
Whenever
picked
you
up
have
that
such-
issue because of leadership. And my answer has already been answered, because if Danko as a player doesn't know if that information was shared with him, so why did those those presidents and secretary generals sit and have a meeting? Wasn't that information supposed to be broken down to them?
That's what I want to respond to. You see, kwa hii hoki yetu tuko na issue inaitwa uchoyo. All of us are selfish because we don't like sharing information. I'll give an example. In that case, if I was sitting in that SG seat and I've had that meeting with the clubs, and the clubs have said tumekubali tutalipa, to make sure that sina lawama, I go to my PRO, I tell the PRO, publish this press release, send to all journalists, post on our social media pages and websites, said club leaders met with us. This is what we discussed. This is what was discussed, and this is what was agreed upon. Na ndio hii. So the 2024/25 season or 24 season itachezwa dash mesh, and the clubs italipa, because that's public information. You don't need to hide it, and it will also save face whenever such questions come up. That's one. Now, coming to clubs, I don't understand if that's true. I don't know whether that's true, but if it's true that club leaders sat and said tutalipa, I don't understand, number one, why they would accept at that particular point in time, more so for community clubs, because they know community clubs, the members are the ones who pay to participate in the sporting activity for the club. If I'm told to pay a subscription of, let's say, 1,000 or 1,500 per month, I should have a say on whether I go to Dash Mesh and play. So the club leaders then would have said, hatutawapatia decision saa hii, we need to go back to our members who pay subscription every month or every year to ask whether, on top of the registration fee they've contributed, they are ready to contribute money to play. Because remember, these community clubs, the players are the ones who pay their own fares, their own meals, they cater for their own injuries, they cater for any training fees that they may be, kama they are renting a pitch or something. So if it is true that all club members or club leaders said sawa tutafanya without consulting their club members, then it shows where we go wrong as a club. So the leadership issue now brings up representation, which is different from corporate clubs and institution-based clubs, because those, they have money, they can say, si hatuna shida, tutalipa. But for community clubs, or what we call self-sponsored clubs, it is very wrong to go and say sawa tutacheza, because you just want to play without consulting your members.
Yeah, that's true. Alvin, you want to chip in into this?
I think my browser is misbehaving. Nasikia
Okay.
mkikatika, so I, I haven't really had hii discussion ya leadership vizuri sana. I actually at some point wanted to drop then come back. So,
Okay, let me allow you to drop and then come back. And I don't know if there's anything else. Simon, I cut you short at some point, so probably we can go back to what you wanted to say and just finish up on this leadership bit.
So, based on what Duncan has said in terms of a leader being credible, integrity, kuna transparency, I've read the suggestions or recommendations from FIH on the responsibilities of club leaders and management. So when you look at each of that list, and if you don't have this document, or you can't access it, please DM me. I'll share it with you. I'll share the link. You can download all documents. So you ask yourselves this question, and I'll focus more on community clubs, and some of these issues will also be replicated to the institution and sponsored clubs. I found a club that was formed. I joined the club. I'm paying subscription fees to play, registration fees I'm paying. But when it comes to critical decisions, I'm not involved. So I should be asking myself this question. Is that the tradition of the club? Is that the whole ethos of the club? Is that the DNA that I just join as a member, pay, I play? Don't care about the decision. When things go wrong in hockey, it is not me. Let the club leaders deal with it. Mimi nataka tu kucheza. So that's the question we should be asking ourselves, because that's how we are behaving. We just subscribe, play, KHU do 1 or 2 blunders, we complain, but we don't focus on the club. Tunasema, oh, CHAs are not functional, but I asked Duncan juzi, whenever CHAs are having elections, do our club leaders come back down to the members and ask, who do you think we should support? Who do you think we should vote for? They don't. Unasikianga tu mtu alichaguliwa tu CHA member, and then you're like, huyo si mzuri nini nini, but your club leader sat in that meeting, that AGM, to vote for someone.
In fact, Simon, just to add to what you're saying, I'm yet to see a club, if there is any, that would sit down with its playing unit and ask them who they feel is right to take up leadership roles and positions at that club.
I think was Alendo.
Okay, probably was Alendo do. But I'm just looking at the majority of the clubs in Kenya. So when they are signing up players, players get there and they are told, huyu ni coach, hawa ndio wenye club, huyu ni TM, hawa ndio wenye club zeni. You get? So you find at the end of the day, there is really no like a clear participation by the playing unit in terms of who is to get to the leadership of the clubs. I'm just looking at the comment by the SG for Kakamega County Hockey Association, Peter, anasema, most clubs are individual property. And if you look at the setup of, especially what Saimo calls community clubs in the country, there are few people who make decisions. Was either they founded the club, or they were among the leadership of people among the people who founded the club, or probably
they are, sorry to cut you short, Ama, they are the remnants of the founding members. They were not the ones who founded the club, but they were part of the playing unit when the club
in the
was
80s
starting.
and 90s. Now I'm gonna score this poor sana.
Mm.
So um, I think that is very fundamental that we need to get to a place where even from club level, the playing unit has a decision on leadership at that point. But now, you might want to ask yourself, then what could be the problem? Nini na result into this situation where things are like that. I don't know how many clubs have things like even the constitution in place.
They don't.
Management structure, leadership structure. That if you want to get to this leadership structure, this is how you grow into it and those kind of things. Truth be told,
There is one, Danko. There is one that is called an ad hoc structure. Let me read some notes I made a long time ago. The last time we had a discussion with Njugush, I think when we met with the counties. So the ad hoc structure in most clubs is founding members, then we have a club secretary, treasurer, and then club captain. Prove me wrong.
no, that's true. Now, if you get to those, Simon, I want to challenge you. Enter to City Park Leo. Pick any player. Now, Mulize, do you know who is the leadership of the club? You might be surprised that this character akona hockey stick amekuja kucheza game, but has literally zero understanding of what the club leadership entails in terms of the people occupying whatever positions that are in those clubs. So I think at club level, Pierre may significantly fail, to be very honest. Clubs don't have structures. And the reason why we even are stuck at the subscription point and we even can't get corporate sponsorship and investments is because we have nothing moving in terms of structure. So kumekuwa na a few people wenye hao ndio wanataka watoe do, for example. Those are the ones that want to make decisions because, as we've rightfully said, probably they founded the club or they were among the playing unit in the earlier years of when the club started and those kind of things. So we've significantly failed at club level, even with when it comes to matter structure of the club.
Yeah, if you have discussions with people who've done business development or who are practicing it, they'll tell you this. If you do not re-engineer your business, you will close down. We are still stuck in the late 80s and early 90s model, while everything around us has been re-engineering. Things have been changing. Si tumebaki tu na ile model ya 80s na 90s, where a few people ndio wako able to support the club, and then the few members who cannot support the club, they just give a few subscriptions and we keep moving. We haven't really sat down and thought, this is not working for us. And I'm giving a challenge to the players, especially in the community clubs. Number one, find out the history of the club. Number two, can we have open honest discussions where we ask ourselves, wakati ya watu walianzisha hii club, what was their vision? What was their mission? So to answer this question about which structure we should take, there is no set blueprint. Hata ukisoma hii document ya FIH, it's not giving a set blueprint, but it's giving like guidelines. For example, you need a president, a deputy president, or a vice president, you need a treasurer, a secretary. These are the normal ones. But as a community club, it is important you engage across the board. Call the founding members, call the current leadership, call the playing unit or the subscribers, and sit down and ask yourselves, wakati tulikuwa tunaanzisha hii club, what was our vision? Was it just to play for fun? If it is just to play for fun, then don't even bother kuregister kwa league. You just meet on Sundays, form your own small league, play. There is no need of going all through this hassle ya complain about CHA and KHU, and your whole DNA is just to play hockey for fun. But if you mean business, where you say tunataka player wetu kama watano tuwaone kwa national team, at the same time you're having fun, then now you can start having that conversation of, okay, in the next 5 years tunataka kuwa we are not renting a pitch, we have our own land. In the next 10 years we want to have a women's team, because it is also in the FIH document that a club should also aspire to have inclusivity. So have a women's team, or if it's a women's team, have a men's team, have a junior team, youth development, also bringing up umpires, bringing up leadership to go to NHS. So tuache cooperate na hiyo mentality ya the 80s and 90s. We need to sit down, just call for a meeting, ask the founding members, what was your vision? Number 2, is the current structure working? Hata tukisema tunataka kucomply, we won't start picking players and saying wewe unaendeshanga Benz, wewe utakuwa treasurer, wewe ni wakili, wewe utakuwa wa SG, and then just go and register and don't involve the members. So sit down, say this is the structure we want, draft a constitution, start by that. Because even if you take all that time to go to be compliant and you don't have a structure that is currently working, you don't have a mission statement, a vision statement, then even the playing unit won't have that representation. So management will come after setting up a leadership structure. So you can decide to have a president, a CEO, whoever. Just sit down as a team and decide, this is where we started, this is where we are going, and currently these are the issues we are facing, such that, assuming, let's say we take a county that has 10 teams, all 10 teams have a president, then they can say, we are not happy with the current CHA, we'll invoke the constitution and say, null and void, we are selecting. Then the club members sit and say, we are endorsing flood, we are endorsing flood. So the 10 clubs can have a presidential caucus that go to the CHA and say, sisi kama hii region hatufurahi venye KHU inaendelea. But now we can't have a playing member who is making noise on social media and the club leader is not even knowing what the players are going through.
Yeah. Okay. Let's read on what is happening on our social media pages. Remember, you can engage with us there, even as we continue talking about management. And let me stick to Atieno Elekia, who says, I think a structure will be more effective if clubs had their own playing or training fields and the structure is easy to acknowledge and showcase. Also, most people stop playing and forget about active non-playing participation. Dosila, are you talking about yourself?
Let me read, Jugush, if you allow me to read
Go on.
something here. It's World Hockey National Hockey Development Plan. It's one of the documents I said in in FIH. So there is somewhere where they're asking about former players. Let me see whether I can find it. So basically it was asking, do you have like a framework where former players can be able to come back to the club to assist the operations of the club, or they can go into regional setup or national setup, either as hired people, elected people, or volunteers? So I can't find the text. I think I'm blanking here. So the question is, we've had players, brilliant minds, not only skill, that we've let go at club level. People we know, for example, they can't play, but they can dedicate their time to look for community projects that can bring in money. For example, they can organize a club fundraiser. But more often than not, because, as we said, we don't have good management structure, we let them go. And we only contact them wakati team inataka kwenda Mombasa and we need a top up of 5,000 shillings. That's the wrong way to operate. So we need to find a structure where we...
Simon, I don't know if I can get you, but you seem to have lost. Let me continue with the social media pages. And I think this is a continuation of something here. So let me begin with this one, because that's where Atieno Helekia says. She says, on the flip side, doesn't KHU have a sponsorship budget that they could foster to enable clubs participate with minimal strain, minimal financial strain? Most clubs are self-sponsored, and raising that money each time without a sponsor is a bit difficult. And she continues to say that that is why I opine that elections should be on should be for every registered player, not few individuals. That makes inclusive elections not representing voting. Who still votes with only representatives? And I think we had that one for Nani. That is what we have. Remember, you can just still engage us on our social media handles. And let's, I don't know if we have completely dealt with management, which is what we moved into Danco. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can get you, sir.
What else can we add into management? And as you answer that, let me add you one more question.
Mhm.
I look at many clubs. Let me pick, for example, your club because it is you. You have Saimo. I'm looking for the journalist. What's his name? The one at Top FM. I'm trying to remember his
Karis,
name.
Karis.
Yes, Karis.
Yes.
You have three people here who can effectively get you probably a good sponsorship. Are you looked at probably as young people, or as young people you say mi bora nimepelekwa Mombasa na Kisumu, hii vitu ingine si shida? Or are you content with just paying the 2,000 shillings that goes on?
I'll be very honest with you. From where I sit, the leadership of Park Road sat down at some point
Yeah.
and thought it wise that they should pass on the leadership to young players to
Okay.
be in charge of decisions that are taken with regards to the club. And we have the likes of Brayo, we have the likes of Jerry, who are now looking at putting things into place in terms of structure and now strategically seeing where this club is going to move. To be very honest, how we've been operating before really doesn't depict how a club should operate anywhere within the confines of this country. I think
Yeah.
we really need to have just quality structures in place to ensure that things are moving. So just to answer your question, one of the most important things that clubs need to do, first of all, is to establish a structure, both at leadership point and management. Then two, um, elect visionary leadership persons within
Uh-huh.
the structures of the club that can be able to drive the vision of this club moving forward in terms of what they want to achieve for their individual players, for the club, for their CHA, and ultimately at the national level.
Uh-huh.
Then three, what is significantly missing is a strategic plan.
Uh-huh.
I've taken time to look at a couple of strategic plans done by CHS. It's
Uh-huh.
unfortunate that it's a duplication
Uh-huh.
across all CHS. Even the
They,
constitution.
they have those things
Those that do have, trust me, it's a duplication.
from where? From the national body.
So national body may trickle down. Angalia tu constitution mingi. It's the same.
Uh-huh.
Actually, it's basically change
Yeah,
of
for
name.
constitution, that's true. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So utapata some of those things are significantly missing. And at the end of the day, mume appoint mse sawa ako in leadership. But then where are you heading? If you can't
Uh-huh.
strategically plan, where are you moving? Unaona? So ndio tunajikuta in the same situation yenye people just want to play hockey this year, wait for KG to say the league starts on the 27th. Wacheze wachengane until the end of the year, and then wait for the following year to also still do the same thing. Okay? I was just sharing with someone and I was telling them, if we really want to grow, we might want to pick the analogy of a cat that has ambitions of growing to be like a lion. The first thing it needs to do is to cut its appetite for rats. Otherwise, if it still maintains its appetite for rats, itabaki tu kuwa paka. You see, it will never grow. So I think that's what we really need to change. We really need to have structures in place, visionary leadership, and strategic plans. Tukishapata hizo, then now we can start speaking of transitioning from subscription-based membership into corporate sponsorship. Okay, that way then the club will grow. we'll have gotten to that point where we can be able to sell the value proposition of a club to any corporate entity, and they see the value and now come into to invest their monies. Yes.
Okay, before I let Simo come in and we continue talking about management,
Mhm.
on Tuesday, I had an interview with Simon Mason. Simon Mason is the managing director for Martian Hockey, and I realized something about how they manage hockey in the UK, because um, those people who leave leadership don't really remain, don't really walk out, like what I think it's Atieno Haleke who asked. People still sit and discuss and help with issues, and you can get that conversation on Hockey Kenya and get to understand more what I'm talking about. Our YouTube page, that is where you'll find that information. So Simon, I want us to close down on management because I want us to talk
Yep.
about money. Money. So let's talk about,
Mm.
let's finish up on management before we move into
Yep.
finances. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, sorry, I got cut short. My device maxed its RAM. I don't know how. So as I finish, there is a comment I've seen from Atieno about. I don't know whether Njugush you can project this comment. I think a structure would be more effective if the clubs had their own playing or training fields, and the structure is easy to acknowledge and showcase. Also, most people stop playing and forget about active non-playing participation. There is, I can say yes and no. You really don't need to have training fields to show the structure.
Mm-hmm.
What would show the structure or a good management is clear organization.
Yeah.
I'll give an example. At Twinkle Hockey Club, I don't know what's happening right now. I haven't gotten in touch with them for quite some time. We didn't have a training field. And it was part of my job and my team's job to make sure that every single training session, the coach and the players had a training field. And through that, even the players will say that the organization is good because they didn't have to worry about where they're going to play. They didn't have to worry about whether they'll have water. They didn't worry about having a nurse or a team doctor there. The coach didn't worry about where the players would train. They didn't worry about how they are going to get onto the pitch because the management structure was working.
Mm-hmm.
So, regardless of whether guys have a set pitch or not, poor management will always make a team fail. And I'll give examples. How many clubs have their own training field and can barely get 10 players onto the training pitch every session?
Mm-hmm.
Ask the coaches, they'll tell you this session imekuwa na sita. Your session, let's say Tuesday I had 6 players, Thursday I'll have 10 players, but among the 6 that came on Tuesday, only 3 are consistent because of poor management.
Mm.
And if the management is straight, the players will see that the club is straight, is strict, and they will show commitment. I can tell you for a fact, and people can post a comment there and verify, most players won't turn up to training because wanaona hata management haiko serious.
Mm.
When they see there is no seriousness in management, they'll be like, why am I even bothering to come to training? Because I mean, the coach aulizi swali,
Mm-hmm.
treasurer wetu tunamwonanga tu WhatsApp akiitisha pesa ya kuenda trip ama ya registration. Hata hatujui kama tunakuanga na president ama chairman. It starts from the top. It starts from the top. Yeah.
Okay, can we move and talk about money?
Yes, please.
Okay. Tango,
Yes, sir.
let's talk about money. Do you think clubs effectively manage money? And not necessarily Park Road because you and Simon are there, but generally across clubs because I know you interact with a lot of players from different clubs. Is this the case across everywhere?
The first question should have been, now, do they even have the money? Uh,
Simon
Good
amesema kila
question.
mwezi mnatoanga kakitu.
kunakuwaga na kakitu.
Yeah.
That's true. But
Yeah.
then I'm just looking at the bigger picture in terms of other clubs.
Mm.
A lot of clubs rely on either player contribution or individual contribution from some of those players who are probably working. Okay.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But then I'll be very honest. I've spoken to a couple of, actually many of these clubs across the country, especially
Yeah.
on matters finances, and I think it could be a problem of that trickles down from national issues. The question of
Mhm.
integrity and
Mhm.
transparency is literally a big problem.
Mhm.
So it doesn't really matter how much money you do have, but then are you transparent about it?
Mhm.
So that when let's say clubs are taking part into an activity, they've gone for
Yeah.
an away match and those kind of things, how
Uh-huh.
much money was contributed? First of all,
Uh-huh.
was there any money contributed? And if yes, how much was it?
Mhm.
Where is it documented in terms
Yeah.
of who contributed what? What were
Uh-huh.
the expenditures in terms of
Uh-huh.
how much money was spent? What was the balance or deficit?
Mhm.
So it's a picture that is a bit tricky. But then if you
Yeah.
look at most clubs, you will realize there are specific people that end up making the contribution because a lot of the players either are not financially stable or really don't have a source of income that can sustain them around um, giving part of their funds in terms of monies into hockey as a sport. So
Mhm.
Wanabaki, they're only relying on a few people within the club so that
Mm.
they give them fare and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Simon.
Uh, there is no need to repeat what Danko has said, but there are a lot of questions when it comes to club financial management because we've had
Yeah.
situations of let's take the three categories: institution clubs, corporate clubs, and community based clubs.
Mhm.
So I'll start with institution clubs. There are so many examples, so many cases. Talk to most of the people in institution clubs, they'll tell you, and I'm talking Kenyanese, money is
Uh-huh.
being eaten. People are embezzling funds. Watu wanakula
Uh-huh.
pesa. A player is
Uh-huh.
supposed to get an allowance of 2,000 bob, they are given 900 bob.
Uh-huh.
There's when they are going on an away trip, they are supposed to be given, let's say that 2,000 bob, they are given 2,000 bob per day, they are given 900 shillings per day, 1,800 kwa sababu watatafuta lodging ya 1,000 washikane watu kama wanne, kidogo kidogo ya chakula hapa na pale, and that's it. Probably they are given emergency fund. The team report goes, one player got injured, and the money is taken away. So people are embezzling funds in institution clubs, and players know it, but they are scared to talk about it because, let's say, in the case of a university, their scholarship or their studies will be cut short. So they end up keeping quiet. So you look at that player, amegrow na hiyo situation. What do you think will happen when they go now to a community-based club and they are made a treasurer? The culture is already set, you know.
Mhm.
You look at corporate clubs, same thing. A corporate contributes money. The money is supposed to pay for City Park. Probably they go to another pitch and then they claim that pitch is more or less the same price as City Park, or they overpriced City Park or something. Because in the other space we mentioned that hata Danko alisema some of the receipts are handwritten. There is no ETR receipts or something. wanatuma mtu anaenda Isili ananunua jazi jazi moja let's say ni 800, when they submit the receipts they say one jazi is for 3000 bob. Pesa inaibiwa hivyo. When you come to community clubs, I had a case some time ago that a team there's someone who was supporting a club. The team was traveling somewhere. I don't want to lose my data protection license, so I won't mention names, clubs or locations. So the club ilipewa one of the club leaders alipewa pesa, alipe fare and possibly food or accommodation. So the guy pocketed the money and asked the club members to contribute towards going for the away trip. So you look at that, so those scenarios, and it goes back to management. How many of our treasurers, club treasurers, have had financial training, financial management training? Or
But
scratch
mostly
that.
it's accountants. Mostly it's accountants who manage our finances in the clubs.
Yeah, even if it is an accountant,
Yeah.
managing a club is a bit different from managing a corporate account. Yes.
And I think in that book, that first book that you showed us, I think it has that in place.
Yes, it has that in place and it has guidelines. For
Yeah.
example, the club should give them financial training on how to manage club affairs, because every club has different budget lines. For example, USIU won't have the same budget line as Park Road.
Yeah.
An example, at Park Road, we might not have consideration for medical insurance, but USIU will have it. Unaona? Sisi tunaweza sema since you are a community based club, kila mtu ajitetee kimedical, or we decide let's start our own contribution for medical, so subscription iende juu kidogo. So it depends. Now when it comes to the CHAs and the NH and NA, do they call for financial training for our club leaders? Have we ever had a seminar where they say, oh, okay, today we are going to have this person, he has been a club treasurer for, let's say, a club in England, atatuonyesha how we'll be running our finances? We don't. How many of our clubs get a financial statement or statement of accounts about how their club has spent money? This is the collection, this is the revenue, and this is the expenditure. How many? And these are the questions that club members need to be asking their club leaders. Like, yeah, tunaanza a new season, but last season tuko na deni. There are people who go to City Park to play, hata hawajui kama ililipwa last season, hawajui kama hata ililipwa in full amount. They don't know. Wao kazi yao tu ni wavae shin guard, kiatu, hockey stick aingie kwa uwanja. They don't even know whether it is true that KHU need 1500 per player, because they don't get to see the official communication, because the official communication is sent to a personal email. As a club member, why are you allowing club communication to go to a personal email? So those are the questions we should be asking.
And maybe to add something there, sorry to cut you short. The world has really changed. Nowadays, you have social media, which I must applaud many clubs are in, but there's something called website. I wonder how many teams are in websites. Even if you can put it under construction and then have your emails properly addressed, such that you can say chairman at njugunahockeyclub.co.ke or finance at njuguna@hockeyclub.co.ke. Those are the things that bring credibility to a club. They may look so invaluable, but there are things that can really make a lot of sense. And also in those clubs, the young people who've done designs and they can help with such things, manage the social media pages and all those things, because I think that's one of the things that we need to do as clubs, because yes, we can get sponsorship, but unless such structures are there, then it becomes a very hard thing to follow.
Yeah,
It probably
Jugush, you
can make
see,
you,
if before you sent the conversation to Duncan,
yeah.
you see whatever is happening at the national level and county level stems
Mhm,
from the culture that is in the clubs.
mhm,
It is not different.
mhm,
It is a clear picture. Kitu yenye ina
mhm,
happen KHU ndio ina happen CHA. It stems from the club.
mhm,
Because at the club level mtu alizoea kuto communicate to the club members. So what do you think will happen akifika pale juu?
mhm,
Atakuwa anasema this information is for the selected few that I'm dealing with.
mhm,
That is what happens.
mhm,
When you see the CHAs are supposed to be collecting affiliation fees from the clubs. Do they even collect? Do they even know? Kwa club mtu amekuwa akioperate without a structure, without a constitution. Akifika kwa CHA, ata copy paste ile ya KHU, atoe logo, jina, aeke ya CHA, then asubmit to KHU. Because I was doing my research and actually the CHA is the one that is supposed to submit the club's name to Kenya Hockey Union and say, hey, look, we have a new member, tumemu-endorse. But before they endorse, they need to have checked some things like, are they compliant? Do they have statements of accounts? Do they have legal members who are Kenyan citizens, blah, 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 blah. But what do we do? CHA inasema, we uko sawa, we tumekusubmit KHU. KHU nao anasema, we lipa registration fee, cheza hockey. Because that's what they were used to at the club level. Oh, unataka kujoin kucheza club, haina shida. Wewe toanga tu 1500 per month, wewe hockey stick jinunulie, kiatu jinunulie, fare ukishindwa tutakuwa tunakucontributia kaende. That is what is happening.
In fact,
You and
You
I,
eh?
in fact,
you and I, Danko, sorry, before you come in, Saimo, you and I, when you used to run Hockey KE, you used to get a lot of messages about, oh, I want to join this, I want to join a club, I want to play
Yeah.
for a club.
Yeah.
And at times we would wonder, where do I send you? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Because it becomes a problem. I don't know where to send you. I don't know you, but you seem to have a passion in the sport.
I want to give members of the CHAs a challenge.
Mhm,
And honest challenge.
mhm,
Can they give us at the top of their heads without research if they are
mhm,
truly operating under CHAs? And we are going to stage 2 and today it was about clubs.
yeah.
At the top of their head, if they really understand their region, can they tell us Park Road wanachezeanga Desa, Butali wanakuanga hapa, Simba wanakuanga Dashmesh? Just stop them one day on the road and ask them. They don't even know where the clubs play. They don't know. Hata unaweza wauliza kiti ya club fulani ni gani. They don't even know. Kwa sababu tunaoperate incognito ad hoc. Because hivyo ndivyo tulizoea kwa club. So we really need to fix issues at the club. If serious structures are set at the club, then you will have proper standing to question what is happening at the CHA level. But wewe kama leader wa club, you cannot question, or even a member of the club, we cannot be able to question KHU and CHA na sisi club yetu iko in shambles. Yeah, ni
That's
kama
true.
sasa mimi niende kwa jirani yangu kucomplain kwake ni kuchafu na mimi kwangu mende na panya zimejaa. It can't happen that way. It can't happen. I have to first sort out my house so that when I go to the caretaker kumwambia corridor ni chafu, my house is already clean. Yeah.
Aya, Danko?
Finances really form a critical element in as
Mhm,
far as growth of hockey as a sport is concerned. Financial management will either make or break the sport in terms of if it will grow or not grow. If you look at the challenges that we are having in finances, one, as you've rightfully pointed out, there is no information, no training that clubs have undertaken in as far as financial management is concerned. In fact, what a lot of clubs are doing is that they are relying on a few members who have financial management skills to probably run their finances if they have those finances. The biggest undoing is that I'm yet to see, but I know of a few clubs that do bookkeeping. How
Uh-huh.
much money have they received? How much was spent on what, and what are the balances? Okay,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
if we want to grow this sport and now transition from the subscriptions to now get to corporate social investment, the first question an investor will ask you is that, where are your books? Do you have audited accounts, for example? Alafu
Yeah.
unasema hapana, mi si
Danko umeruka swali moja. Danko
Mm.
umeruka swali. They usually ask for the organization structure.
Sure. Even
Because
if they are
whenever I
looking,
was whenever I was going to look for sponsorship for Twinkle, they used to ask, who are you?
Mm.
Sorry, Danko, endelea.
yeah, true. So they'll ask, "Nyinyi ni nani?" One, two, what is your vision? Where do you want? Where are you guys looking at in terms of where you want to get to? So that
Yes.
they also see, if they come into sponsoring this club, what is the value proposition that they are getting from the
Mm.
investment? But the critical question, even before mtu atoe pesa yake, and let me tell you this: a lot of corporates today have compliance offices in place, and they'll want to look at the basics of compliance, like, do you guys have audited accounts, for example? Do you have financial statements? Have they been approved by the leadership of the club? Have they been looked at by the CHS and those kind of things? But from where we sit today, tuna run kienyeji sana. That now needs to change. And the problem is, from a historic way of how we used to do things, utapata people who are in leadership today, be it at club level, at CHA level, and even at national level, these were things that were strange to them. Someone was playing hockey, they were being given money by a corporate. Walikuwa wanakuja tu kucheza. There was no financial literacy and information about financial management. They've transitioned to a CHA. They have no understanding of financial management, and then they go up there. They now even look at the structure today. Saimo, if you want to register for the league, who is asking for the subscription? Okay?
Yeah,
Who
the
should be
founding.
asking for that money?
Yeah.
Unaona? So unapata, it is KHU that is today now asking clubs, you need to pay for subscription. Wame bypass yes. You get? But now when it's the other way around, when there are problems, they now want you to go through the channel. So I think even from a legislative point of view, we've significantly failed. But now that we're having a conversation about clubs, I think we really need to reorganize our books in as far as financial management of clubs are concerned. If we are serious that we want to grow the sport, and if we are serious that we want to monetize this sport. Otherwise,
Yeah.
if we still do mzee anachora makalamu anaandika January, February, we will not get anywhere.
Yes. So now, adding on to that, you see, we let me be blunt and say that we run our clubs. It's kizungu ni ngumu, lakini let's say with myopia, yani
Run it.
tunaonanga
Put it as the way I
tu,
put it on the screen right now. Most
Kienyeji.
clubs are run individual property.
hiyo individual property na kujia hiyo comment iache hapo. Now, you see, when we are running these clubs, remember what I asked. Why did we start this club? Even for the corporate sponsored institution owned, they should ask themselves, why did we start this club? And I like this document from FIH because it even says that it even has provision for institutional and corporate clubs. And part of the institution clubs, they say they are started because the institution have a responsibility for inclusivity in terms of sport, and also they use it as a marketing tool. And that's why you find clubs like Strathmore and USIU even offer scholarship opportunities because they know their name will be sold. Otherwise, they would spend that sports money to build lecture halls. So, when you started the club, what was your motivation? Wakati mlianzisha, you had a vision that the club will grow and you are willing to take on new members. Even currently, you are taking on new members. members. As you're taking them on,
Mhm.
did we have a conversation that says this will be only sustainable for X number of years? Now we need to find a place where the club will be self-sustaining. Because remember, as the country is growing, the finances are also reducing and the resources are becoming scarce. Zile viwanja zilikuwa kitambo, saizi some of them are flats or they are car washes and bars. Hakuna viwanja. Like Danko, Park Road saizi desa tuna share with how many people?
Hey, wase wengi sana. Football
Like,
club,
yeah,
very many people.
exactly. How many clubs right now are in Nairobi and can say they have a training pitch? Now, have we thought of money-making ventures or revenue streams? So the document here says we have membership fees, we have donations. Those are the two main sources I can see currently in our Kenyan clubs for community-based. Kuna kitu inaitwa community grants, kuna raffles and lottery type events, which most clubs have not thought of. Fundraising
In
dinners.
fact, just stop there. Every club, because we're talking about clubs today, every club is supposed to benefit from every county association they're affiliated to. Yeah. And there are monies that are set aside for sports. But how many clubs know we can go to this club, we can go to this county association and ask for our money?
Wachana na hiyo weka kasta. How many CHAs though that they can get funding? Hiyo tutauliza wakati wakuja kwa CHAs. Kuna food
It's an
stands.
interesting question.
Kuna now I'm finishing up the list. So there are food stands, like let's say tunaweza set up place ya kuuza chipo mwitu, pizza and stuff, and then there is a bake sale that is part of food and car washes. So other than subscriptions and donations, have we opened up our minds to think about these other revenue streams? And this is just a few. The other thing, how much have we invested in marketing? Jugush, I'm so glad I was with you when we started all this social media stuff. And you remember back then, people are not convinced that social media would work. And I'm squeezing me ucheka. Wakati naona KHU anapost kitu social media, na vile walikuwa wanasema hii kitu haiwezi work.
I have something I want to say, but I'm
Tumesema
very
hakuna
restricted.
filters. You see, people used to hate this thing. And now, after I think COVID is when people realize, haya, kumbe hii kitu inaweza work. Now we've realized it's working, but now how are we using it to our own advantage? When was the last time your club marketed itself on social media? When was the last time? When was the last time your club reached out to new members, not playing unit?
Aya, Danko
Ati
huyo
opportunity.
amepotea tena. Oh, anarudi, ni kama anarudi.
Nani hiyo?
Wewe.
Wewe.
You had hung at some point.
Paul, my computer is misbehaving. So I'm asking, how many clubs have taken advantage of reaching out to the community? Non-playing members. Inawaambia tu, hey, look, we have an outreach program, tunachukua vijana pale slums, tunawapatia opportunity, kuna watoto tunapeleka shule, support the club. How many have taken that advantage? So we only rely on subscriptions and donations.
Simon.
Yeah.
There is a day I got invited by, and this was in football, and it was an embarrassing situation. There's a day I got invited to a meeting, for a football club where they had been summoned by their sponsor. Okay.
Yeah.
So their sponsor had an interesting argument. Their sponsor pumps up to a tune of like 100 million, just running the club within the football league for a year. And assuming the team wins the league, the max they can get in terms of financial award is up to a tune of like 3 million. So they were asking them the difficult question, which was they're asking now the management to explain why they should continue being sponsored, yet what they are only gaining from 100 million is 3 million.
Mhm.
Now, to my surprise, my expectation was that the leadership of the club will now, do a PowerPoint presentation and sell the value proposition of what that entails, just away from the 3 million that the institution gets back, and now look at it from a marketing point of view.
Mhm.
But to my surprise, the coach didn't say anything, the technical officials didn't say anything, and they are only alive with the sponsorship today because there was a contractual engagement between that corporate entity and the club.
Mhm.
They will ask a
Mm.
simple question to justify how they spend their monies. They didn't have
Mm.
documents. And this is a very
Exactly.
serious football club in this country. So unakaa hivi unashanga now. If the leadership can't be in a position to even explain this, then where are we heading to? It's an unfortunate situation that we really just need to go around it and look at how best we can be able to address it. One
No,
of the things,
my question to you, Tanko, is the finance guy in that team. Do you expect him or her or they them? Siku hizi kuna gender mingi. Do you expect them to go into a county office or a national office and behave differently? That all of a sudden now I'm a professional.
they can't behave any different. Because you see, they've not taken time to understand that space. Because
Yeah.
make or break of any club is around how they manage their finances. Aside from leadership, aside from integrity, aside from management, it is how do you manage and run your finances. If you lose it at that point, then you'll never grow. Tutakuwa tunachengana tu, KH inatupasha, CHA inatupasha, and then we get back to the same vicious cycle year in, year out. Okay?
Mm.
So that's an issue we really need to get addressed and get it properly. Like we have clubs today, even within the hockey space, that enjoy corporate sponsorship. And I want to tell you, Saimo and Njugush, the
Mhm.
reason why these clubs are enjoying corporate sponsorship is because they have people in those corporates
Mm.
that have hockey at their heart.
Yeah.
But if those people pull out, they lose the sponsorship. Why? Because there is nothing visible that you can see, even in spaces like the social media, that the clubs are doing to just show the value of the brand of who is sponsoring them.
Mm.
Unaona?
Mhm.
So
Mm.
unapata someone plays for a club that is enjoying sponsorship in this country. Post the match, there is nothing they are doing. There is nothing the club is doing to also just push the brand. You look at TikTok accounts, you look at Facebook accounts, you look at Instagram accounts of those clubs. Whatever they post there as messages, as videos, are just funny things that even when their corporate see, they'll even immediately discontinue. That's kind of thing.
Can I steal you a secret? And I know Desmond will kill me for this. Because I had signed an NDA, but anyway, lazima tusaidiane. Those are some of the things that I was very furious about with the social media team that I had at Twinkle. It came to a point where I told them, before you post anything, I need to see and approve, because we need to sell an image of a, a serious club.
Mhm.
Because you can't have um,
Alikuwa anakaa amepotea. You have
Yeah.
anything to say?
So just to add to what Saimo is saying, was
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
there is how do we portray ourselves out there in
Mhm.
terms of a club that is sponsored, and even that is not sponsored and looking towards growing to get to that level where probably they might enjoy corporate social investment at some point.
Mhm.
What messages are we putting out there?
Mhm.
One of the quick things that corporates will want to look at is your social media pages. What are you posting? What are your numbers? What kind of tractions are you attracting online? Away from online, from your physical engagements, are there activities that you're running? Unaona? But we
Mhm.
don't have those kind of things in place. So it's really a shame that we are in that space. But the beautiful thing is that we have an opportunity to now look at things differently and structure our approach to especially finances.
Yeah.
Have the money is managed professionally, and
Yeah.
the question of accountability, as we earlier pointed out, like I never understand honestly. Someone is willingly giving you money, and then from where you sit, you're strategically planning on how to steal the very same money. Yani watu wana conscience, people don't have that conscience.
Conscience ni wewe bwana.
Hiyo watu waache hiyo bana.
And people are wondering what is happening in the country. Mtu anapewa ministry, anavaa watch ya 900k. We are all to see wote ni corrupt. Kama mtu anaweza kula 10,000 ya watu, pesa ya club mtu amecontribute ama amepewa na sponsor.
Yeah.
Someone choose that money. And then you expect them ati watavai for a higher office, and when they get there they change. They will never change. That's why
and probably that's the problem we have in hockey. Yeah, the rot is from huko chini na hakuna kitu inaendelea, so we
because
end up just,
Njugush, let's just be brutally honest. The year is 2024. Sindio? In the next 20 years, how many people in the current CHA and KHU offices will be there? Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Most of them won't be there. Because we are human beings, we are living organisms. There'll come a time we all go either to retirement or the Lord takes us. Kuna wale wataenda heaven, kuna wale wataenda hell. But who are we going to have there in the next 10, 15, 20 years? Is it the same thing? And what pisses me off to the core is to see people focusing on KHU, and this is a reflection of what is happening in the club.
Yeah.
It is. Tukue tu honest. You can't expect hata your club leader wako mwenye hakuulizi kama utalipa kwenda Dashmesh Stadium ataingia pale KHU akuulize kama unataka changes. They won't, because they are used to it. Haezi ingia CHA a change ati now they become a professional. It's the same way I heard someone say you cannot employ a matatu driver to fly a KQ plane because they can operate a machine. No, they can't. It has to be progressive. For example, if people are vying for a CHA seat, can we look at their credentials? Number one, are they coming from a club that is compliant? Number two, are they themselves compliant? Are they kama mse anavai for treasurer, what is their profession? Ama ni mtu tu alifika education level fulani, hana any financial accounting information, financial management, they don't know anything, and then they want to become the treasurer. It can't work. It can't work. If the CHAs are voting for, let's say, an SG, a president, a match and fixture secretary, what are their credentials? Tuta complain hapa daily, KHU this, KHU that, but we are not going to where the problem is. Tunataka ku cut off the branches, but we don't want to deal with the roots. The branches will grow new. The same tree will be there. So we need nasikia tu nimejam because we know where this problem starts, but no one is willing to be honest. We appreciate the club founders. We appreciate people who are making the hard work to run the clubs. But now it's a point where as players, as club members, tujiite mkutano. Tuite AGM. Tuseme, yes, tunaelewa kuna shida nationally, kuna shida CHA, but sisi as a club, where are we? So that by the time ninajua ninatuma Danko na Njugush as my club leaders to a CHA, I know that I'm in.
Tango, huyo amepotea?
Yeah, we've lost Saimo, but I'm sure he'll be back. But whatever he's saying is very critical. That the problem literally trickles from our club level, because you find at that point there is nothing that we are doing,
and we have a
then now when people grow, it's interesting that you move from a club, you get to a CHA, you transition from a CHA you go to get to the national level, in this case now Kenya Hockey Union offices, you
Yeah.
get a simple role that
Mhm.
constitutionally has just but one job. But
Mhm.
kwa sababu historically you are not used to the new ways of doing things, you even fail to handle that responsibility, one simple responsibility.
Mm.
So I think we really need to change from the club level how we manage our finances now that we are discussing about finances.
Yeah.
But the most significant thing is about integrity, accountability, and transparency.
Mm.
By the way, biblically,
Mhm.
ukiibia mtu, when you steal from someone has worked so hard na amekupatia 10k, hata
Mm.
5k, and even some players give as little as 50, 100.
Mm.
Then wewe unakula hiyo do. Those are basically trickle down curses to your family. Mungu hawezi kukuacha. By the way, Mungu hawezi kukuacha. Wacha nisikudanganye. Someone
I
has
know.
told,
I'm not laughing at you, but
yeah, I know.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, so
Uh,
we really need to get to that level where our integrity really speaks a lot about how we manage finances. Transparency,
yeah.
umepata 5,000. Just be
Uh,
open. We are 5,000 guys. We were able to spend this much, 4,500. We are now remaining with 500. Ama tulikuwa na 5,000. We've spent 8,000. We have a shortfall of 3,000. You get?
mm,
That
mm,
way, if we do it right at club level, this
mm,
character, if he moves to get into a leadership role at CHA, he will still be
mm,
transparent and accountable. Akimove to the national level, atakuwa transparent and accountable. But akianza kuiba 500 at club
mm,
level, a move
mm,
CHA, aibe 10,000,
mm,
aende kwa national association, ataiba
mm,
100,000, 200,000, 1 million. You
mm.
get? So
Yeah.
even at the club level, we really need to also now look at what are these kind of people that we are putting into those kind of places.
Mm,
You don't just pick a character because this person has been playing hockey or this one looks to be straight. I mean, we must look at ways that we can be able to vet people who are managing some of these things like finances, so that at the end of the day, the person that we have as office bearers are
mm,
people with the character
mm,
that can be able to manage those finances, however little they are.
mm.
I think that's my contribution as far as finances are concerned.
Okay. We have handled also the implementation framework, which is how to keep things working, which is a majority of what we've talked about, and we've contributed to it. So let me bring in Saimo. I can see he's back.
Yeah, sorry guys, my device keeps misbehaving. Nimebadilisha, nimechukua ingine.
Sawa.
Hmm.
So, can you conclude on what you're saying before we?
Yeah, so I was saying, yes, we know that there are issues nationally, and we know that all these issues are stemming from the clubs. Ni lazima tukae tu chini honestly as club members, whether it's a corporate club, an institutional club, a community club, we need to sit down and ask ourselves, what are the issues we are facing? Because we can't go to the national level complaining about how hockey inadidimia, and then ourselves we've not cleaned up our own house. We don't have a management framework, a working framework. And a framework usually says, this is our mission statement, this is our vision statement, these are our goals, these are the milestones. Then we do on a evaluation. For example, evaluate and say that our revenue was this last year when it comes back to financial management. This was our revenue last year. This was our expenditure. This is only, let's say, measure November in April. We have man to figure out how we have to get going to them. Tumedeal na finances.
Mm, mm. Simon, I'm losing you. Danko, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Okay,
Simon,
good. Amepotea. So let me read one or two. Simon, you can hear us?
Yeah, I can hear me.
Yeah, I think your internet is also down, but just continue.
You also try to hot.
Okay, good. As your hotspot, let me read a few messages even as we bring this show to a close. That is Simon Atomo Chieng Okelo says he's following and watching live. Thank you so much. Peter Sitera says we just never learn from the art of the art from our predecessors who are the whites. Sports in Kenya is a big joke. I really want to engage Peter, and I hope I can get him back here so that, or rather on this show, so that we can talk about clubs and county associations when you move to county associations. Adam Zado says KHU has made hockey so boring. Young chaps are no longer motivated to play the sport. Those who play have to drop the game to take care of family because there's nothing to put on the table. Just dismantle this old regime. I learned hockey under a teacher at Lenana School in his 30s, who is currently a principal approaching retirement. The faces of these officials are still the same ones I used to see back then. So it's so pathetic. But how are you engaging yourself in the leadership? That's a question I'll ask you, Adam. Those are the two that are up there. So let's conclude. Simo, have you sorted out your internet? No, he has dropped. So Danko, your
Yes, sir.
last word as I get Simo back in.
So I think now that we are discussing clubs, it's
Yeah.
important that clubs put their structures in place. Let them have a leadership and management structure. That is one. Then two, let them have a strategic plan. It's important to have a short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategic plan in terms
Yeah.
of where they want to go. Then three, let them maintain their finances professionally.
Uh-huh.
Then four, let them share their vision to the leadership and members of the club. It's important that there is inclusivity in terms of whatever activity that the club is getting into. And then let's have a change in a change in mindset from how we look at things. I'm looking forward to clubs growing from individual contribution and subscriptions to getting
Yeah.
to a point where they have corporate social investment. So they already know the channel, compliance related channels that they need to take to be able to get to those positions. So I think that's what they need to do, and they will be able to get to the right places. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before Simo comes in, I think Simo, we need to get a club probably in South Africa or somewhere in Africa,
Yeah.
and or even West Africa, and then someone from the UK to just understand how clubs work and interact. Because I think the script hasn't more or less changed, and we can do so much to improve what we are doing and fixing as we fix our clubs.
Yeah.
But to you, your final word.
Let me quote some quotes here I got some time ago. One is from Ryan Reynolds, who's a Canadian American actor. For guys who watch movies, he's the one who acted Deadpool. Of crisis can be good. It wakes you up. And then another one from Judy Smith that says there is always an opportunity with crisis. Just as it forces an individual to look inside himself, it forces a company to re-examine its policies and practices. So I would say this crisis is good, and we can take advantage of this crisis and actually start looking at our policies, our operations, and our frameworks.
Mhm.
So, what I would like to urge everyone is yes, we are angry, starting with KHU, CHS, and most of the anger is directed at KHU. But I want to request that we look at also our clubs.
Mhm.
Yes, we respect our members. We respect the guys who've held the club together when the founding members probably are not around. But it's a point now where, as Danko has said, we ask ourselves, why did we start?
Mhm.
Then from there, where do we want to go? Where are we currently and where do we want to go? Because
Mhm.
trust me, as I mentioned when you are starting, KHU cannot operate without clubs and teams. CHS cannot operate without clubs and teams. They'll just be a shell. They'll
Yeah.
just be a name.
Mhm.
So if we truly want to bring change to CHS and the KHU, let's start with the clubs so that the clubs can have a voice. Assuming we have, let's say, 10 clubs and 8 of them stand together, assuming kuna wawili wenye ni rogue, 8 of them stand and say, we are not happy with the current hockey situation. We want to amend our CHA constitution. We want to amend our KHU constitution so that we have a say in matters hockey. You can only do that when we are in good standing. Otherwise, hii story yote itakuwa tu ni kelele tumepiga hapa and it is all for nothing. It is all for nothing. Because even now, if I give an example, sorry, I'm going to the KHU bit. Most of
Yeah.
us are complaining that KHU members or officials are still in office. But who will vote them in? Based on the current situation, who will vote them in? No one will vote the who will vote them out?
Yeah.
Who? Who will vote them out?
Yeah.
CHAs are not compliant because clubs are not compliant. Even if they
Mm.
were to call for an election now, it will be null and void.
Yeah.
Saizi meona people are calling for the government to work. Do you expect KHU to submit non-compliant members? No, they can't. Hata sisi wenyewe, we want KHU to be in good standing with the government. Our
Yeah.
CHAs need to be in good standing with the government. So let's start asking tough questions. My proposal and my request to club members, call for a meeting, have that discussion. Say we need a constitution or ask, do we have a constitution? Can we have a copy? If a decision is made, can you ask them, did you consider us? Mimi nalipa subscription. Before you made that decision for me to play in a Maram pitch or at Dashmesh, did you ask us whether we want to do that? If KHU call you and say this is the proposal, why don't you tell them, give us some time to go to our clubs, we deliberate, we'll come back in a week or two? Why do you make a decision like that as if, as Peter has said, it's a private club?
Yeah.
So please, as much as you are focusing on KHU, let's also give the same focus to our club leaders and our clubs. Let's drain the swamp, and it will start with the clubs.
Good. Thank you. That's a good way to conclude. Let me tell you some events that are happening this month, even as we end this show. On the 19th to the 20th of July, we have the Friday night hockey lights hockey, which will be played at the Dashmesh Hockey Stadium from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday, and on Saturday from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. So if you have any club and you'd like to register for it, hit up those who are concerned, and you can ask me. I think you can DM me on the Hockey Kenya page or Hockey 254 on Facebook, and I'll let you know who to contact right there. Thank you so much. These are discussions that we have decided we'll be doing every week. I'm not so sure if Friday is the best thing, but it looks like, because I'm seeing a lot of people who are online today and talking about those who are online. Thank you so much.
Njugush, mimi
For
ningeulizwa, this discussion needs to go on, and I would like to say this. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm taking some time.
yeah,
It doesn't matter whether it's Njugush and Saimo hosting this, or whether it is Alvin and Juma hosting an next space. All of us need to have a united voice.
yeah,
So kama tumedecide that we'll be doing this daily, let's be doing this daily. Kama Juma amesema na host X space, let's join that X space. At times tunanyamaza, we let people give their views. Hata sisi wenyewe, we should start thinking about that X space, because it is a platform where we can open the mic to people, they express
We actually on
themselves.
next space.
Yes, so
We are on
can
next
we host a joint space
Okay.
where people can give their voice? Yes, this platform is good. We may continue using it, especially when we want to share resources and information. But in my
Yeah.
opinion, if you guys can get, let's say, a next space, or you can get a next space and boost it here on this space, we need to give people an opportunity to express themselves, give their experiences. It is the club leader akuja atuambie yenyewe, we are either doing the right thing or we are doing the wrong thing. Let it not
Yeah.
be at Saimo and Jugush hosting or Alvin and Juma hosting at any different. No, the hashtag is let's make hockey work, and we are
Yeah.
speaking with the same voice, and we can only achieve this if we work as a team.
Yeah, that's true. And if you want to contribute to this, again, just hit us up on our WhatsApp, or rather not WhatsApp, but our social media spaces, the ones that you're watching us on, and we'll definitely give you an opportunity and a chance to do this. There are two people who I think I've noted, and I think I'm going to speak to them and ask them if they can join us. Thank you so much for those who are watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, and those who are watching us on Twitter Spaces. Today, the ones on Twitter are the ones who are the majority. We bring this show to a close. Thank you so much, Danko. Thank you so much, Saimo. Thank you so
Welcome.
much, Alvin, who was watching in, who turned and became a listener and not a contributor to this. But I really appreciate Alvin for doing this. Nilimwambia achane na ule subscriber ako naye saa hii, abadilishe ndio akuwe compliant. See you next week, same time, same place. We will let you know if it's on Friday. And as Simon has said, if any other person has a space and they have a Twitter space and they would like us to join, we are free and we'll join.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
rusha hiyo link, tupatie
Yeah.
link, let's amplify it. Any
Yeah,
big
that's
wig wa hockey, small wig wa hockey, rusha that link, let people join, let them express themselves. It's not
Yeah.
about content creation, we are discussing real issues.
Yeah, that's true. Are we done with clubs? Let me ask
Yeah,
the two of you.
Yeah.
not yet, but at least tumecover some.
Yeah, so
Bado
we will. Yes, Danko.
bado mambo ni mingi. There is still a lot to be discussed
Yeah.
on matters club management. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I will look for people who we can get on board and just discuss these issues more, probably locally and also outside this country. I'm looking at Uganda, and there are a lot of things that are happening there, and I'm part of I'm privy to some information that is going on that side. So probably we need to get some of those people here and just discuss, because they have the same old clubs from so much time in memorial. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye bye for now, and